Hey everybody, welcome to
What had happened was,
What Had Happened Was, yes, the What Had Happened Was podcast. We still don't have intro music or a title page or anything yet. But, oh, here we go. What had happened? What had happened?
yeah, I'm
What
really bad at
had
this accent.
happened was, wicked was.
What
Uh,
had happened was, okay.
my name is Karyn Bryant.
And I'm Angela Hill. Hey.
Hey, so we talk about fights, we talk about pop culture. I am an anchor with the UFC and been covering the UFC and MMA in general for a very long time. And
And I'm a fighter with the UFC. I fight in the strawweight division, and I've been fighting in there not as long as Karyn, but I've been in there since like 2000 something. So
yeah,
it's been a while.
good stuff, good stuff. Well, we definitely want to talk about UFC Vegas 19, and that is where the Black Beast knocked out Curtis Blaydes. And I want to ask you not so much necessarily about the Yana Ketlen fight, Angie, but kind of more about some certain situations that happened in the fight. I just want to get your fighter perspective on a couple things. But first and foremost, since you are a fighter, big news. So literally, I'm on the air last night on the post show, and they're like, "Okay, and then coming up next week," I'm like, there's going to be Cyril Gahn versus Jairzinho Rosenstruck. And I'm like, I look at it, I'm like, Angela Hill and Ashley Yoder? I'm like, wait, what? Like, wait, what? And I saw that you had posted something in the morning that you're like, I woke up to some news. So
Yeah.
what had happened? How did this come together?
Well, what had happened was I got a call from my manager asking if I'd be interested in fighting next week, and I'm like, "Well, yeah." So I think just with the climate right now, a lot of people are falling out of fights, and they just had to throw another fight on the card. And luckily for me and Ashley Yoder, we were both called up, and we both said yes, and we both signed a dotted line. So we're both. It's not just me being Cowboy Cerrone. We're both coming in on a week's notice to fight each other. But I'm really excited about it. I actually wanted to train with Yoder because we live so close. We're like maybe like an hour away. So, I mean, it's just going to be like a training session, you know? We're going to go in there, we're going to scrap. Maybe we could share a beer afterwards in quarantine or something. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be fun. It's definitely going to be fun.
It's going to be a really fun fight. I love this fight because the way you just said you're going to throw down, like Ashley's such a scrappy girl. You know,
Hmm.
she's great in the transitions. Like that's where it's just really fun to watch her do her work. She's called Spider Monkey for a reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's just all over you. And the
Yeah, she's a
fact that
little
both you
fat.
girls were on Tough together, like I love it. It kind of sucks though because let me back up for a little bit. First and foremost, Angie, you had gotten pretty feisty with one Miss Tisha Torres on social media. So for those who did not, who may have missed it or whatever, could you please explain what had happened with your social media note? Let's just call it to
My
Tisha.
social media, my beef, my meatless beef.
Yeah.
Um, just to clarify, me and Yoder weren't on the same series of Tough,
Right.
but afterwards we had fought, and that was after I fought Andrade. So
Right.
I fought Andrade, then I fought Yoder, and that was like maybe 4 years ago or something, and I won that fight. And so whenever I see past teammates, or past opponents, I'm always like,
Right.
well, maybe we can get some training in and help each other grow.
Yeah.
So that's not gonna happen this week, but maybe afterwards. So with the Tisha thing, I fought Tisha before I got cut the first time in the UFC, and this
Okay.
was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And a long time ago, I've evolved a lot as a fighter. I feel like I've evolved more than she has, but Tisha hasn't fought as often,
Hmm.
and she feels like she is too good to fight me, even though we signed a contract to fight in December. So I think that's the biggest slap in the face to me, and that's why I just kind of called her out
Yeah.
when I found out that she didn't want to re-sign the contract to
Yeah.
fight later on.
Right.
And we both have a full fight camp again, and we'd be able to do the fight that we planned to do in December
Right.
before I contracted COVID, and then she got a last minute replacement or
Yeah.
whatever. So long story short, Tisha fought someone who really didn't belong in there with her. I
Yeah.
feel like our fight would have been very competitive, and I feel like I would have whooped her. But after she fought that girl, she decided she's too good because she's on a 2-fight win streak, and she's too good to fight me, who is on a 2-fight loss streak. But you look at the level of competition. You
Yeah.
look at the fact that my girls are both in the top 10 ranked, and a lot of people think I won both of those
Right.
fights. Her girls were unranked, and she's coming off of 4 losses before that. So best believe getting that win is the first thing on my mind, but afterwards, Tisha better be ready.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and obviously you have a case. This is when it's hard doing a podcast with a fighter, and I try to stay neutral on most things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm reading this, and I'm like, I was gonna do something that I was like, podcast partner feeling kind of feisty today, and then I tweeted it, and then I was like, well, I don't want to get in the middle of something but I was like, I don't want to say something to say that I can't say anything. Do you know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna just let it be, but obviously, I'm gonna support
It's okay.
you. But
It's okay. You can be neutral. I won't hold it against you.
Yes.
I won't quit the podcast. Like, you can be neutral. Be a professional.
Yes.
I urge you. Show me how it's done, because eventually I'll have to be talking about these girls as if I don't hate them as well.
Well, it's tough. I mean, and the thing is like I said, when I'm reading it, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, awesome, she got a fight. I'm like, oh, it's Ashley. I'm like, you're gonna put your elbows on Ashley? She's
I
so
know.
sweet. I'm like, she's such a sweet girl, and I really, really like her so much. And I'm like, that part of me was like, that sucks, right? But the fan in me is like, hey, that's a nice match. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good match, and I think she's gotten better since we fought.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not going to be one of those like, why are you guys fighting again? She's definitely gotten better. She has better scrambles, and I've been evolving a lot with my takedown defense, with my offensive grappling.
Yeah.
So this is a great fight for me to test it out. So
Awesome.
yeah, let's go.
Let's go. Elbow season. So I do have to ask though, and I know you work out a lot and you don't chunk up and stuff like that. What's the issue though with the weight cut part? Like, how hard is that bit going to be this week?
Well, the weight cut for me shouldn't be too bad. At first I was like, uh-oh, but I took a few days off.
Yeah.
So as soon as I got back to my sessions, the weight was sliding off of me like it usually does.
Cool.
So usually I'm okay. Like when I'm in fight camp, I don't really start dieting and like cutting carbs and everything until the Monday of the week of my fight.
Yeah.
So I eat to stay above 130, and then when I stop overeating, just kind of like eating a bunch of calories, I'm like
drinking caipirinhas.
Drinking beer, drinking caipirinhas, exactly. I try to keep it a little more clean when I'm in fight camp, but as soon as I cut out carbs, then the weight falls off pretty easy, and then the water cut usually isn't that bad.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm good to go. I started cutting carbs a little early just because of the caipirinhas.
Yeah.
I had, like, frozen White Castle burgers for dinner, like on Wednesday.
You did it. You had some murder burgers.
I didn't know. So yeah, I started dieting as soon as I got the news, and now my weight is on track, so I should be good to go.
Cool. Very nice, very nice. Well, if we are talking about the fights that just went down, it was all about the big boys last night. It was all about the heavyweights. There was kind of a showcase for them. And, a couple weeks ago we had Alistair Overeem and Volkov. Next weekend we have Rosenstruck and Gane. But the main event this time was the Black Beast and Curtis Blaydes. Black Beast was actually plus 350, I think, was the final odds. Curtis was minus 450. And Curtis had a great first round. Actually didn't wrestle him at all. Was touching him up. Was landing punches. Actually tagged Derrick a couple times. Wasn't sure if Derrick was just playing rope-a-dope or if he really was hurt. But anyway, Curtis was landing and clearly won the round. But in the second round, Derrick landed that uppercut. And it didn't even look like a clean punch, Angie. It looked like a wrist or something. It was insane how much power that guy has.
Yeah, he kind of went whoop, like kind of rolled it up there. And dude, the way that Curtis looked when that punch landed was it was almost one of those sickening ones where you're like, oh, I hope, like, if UFC goes to like Fox for the first time, or when they would go to ESPN for the first time, people are watching, is like one of those ones where you're like, I hope this isn't the first time somebody's watching UFC.
Seriously.
Because it might scare them.
Right.
It might scare them. It might be a little too real, but that was a beautifully timed uppercut. And it almost makes you wish that that Blaydes stuck with the striking because he was doing so well in the beginning. He was piecing Derrick up. It looked like you can rope a dope all you want, but as a heavyweight, you're getting hurt a little bit. You know, even if you're rolling with the punches, you're getting hurt.
Yeah.
And he was so successful on the feet. I almost wish he didn't go for that hard level change, but you never know what's going to happen in the fight. And I'm sure he felt a lot more safe holding Derrick than actually like being on the outside landing punches, just because he's so dominant there. So man, it was hard to watch, just because I imagine being his teammate and watching him do so well, and then that shock of him just eating something and falling over like that. Like, that was insane. But man, Derrick put on a show. He did all the right things afterwards too. He's such a marketing genius. Like, I love it. Like, it was so exciting and so fun to watch. And yeah, I can't wait to see him fight again.
Yeah, Derrick is amazing. It's interesting that you brought the point up about the teammates, though, for Curtis, because ironically enough, he is a teammate of Corey Sandhagen. And after Corey leveled Frankie Edgar with that flying knee and basically did to Frankie Edgar what Derrick just did to Curtis. So Curtis had put out, or, you know, on social media, celebrating Corey's win with, you know, everybody. And they were like, damn. And yeah, doing exactly what you're saying, like how people went with an amazing knockout. And yeah, now it's just sucks because it's turned, and now they're like on the receiving end of seeing a devastating knockout like that. So that does suck. And yeah, we were definitely concerned for Curtis. He was down a really long time. And it's like he was gone down a long time. But eventually then he was up. But it's interesting now. So we have our studio at the Apex now is on the floor. It's on the same floor as the Octagon, but, you know, we're squared off and we have walls and stuff. So hopefully people don't hear us, because we really aren't like rooting for one guy or another. But when that knockout, like, we were like, oh, like, all of us just freak out in there, you know, just freak out. I was working with Alan and Rashad, and then, you know, of course we got our crew there, sound got, and we're just like, oh my God. And, you know, we're not, like I said, we're not trying to root for somebody. You're just like in shock. And I'm thinking, okay, hopefully people don't hear us. But I think since it's a sound stage, I don't think people hear us. That's the whole point of those. Nobody's supposed to hear you. Yeah.
The 50 people in Apex.
Yeah, but we were. That was pretty insane. I didn't love the extra punches, but then Derrick was like, "Oh, those are because of Herb." Like that, he said, like, Herb didn't get in there early enough and stuff like that. That part did bum me out a little bit because Curtis was so out.
Yeah. I think it's hard for some people to switch off, though.
Yeah.
I don't think it was malicious.
Yeah.
But it's hard for some people to switch off. Like, sometimes you have to. He's such a fun-loving, like, kind of nonchalant guy that I feel like he has to become he is the person celebrating the Shamu, like, evil Shamu celebration. That's his character when he's fighting. Like, he's still that guy. Yeah. And it isn't until the fight's over and, like, he hugs his opponent that he could go back to being Derrick Lewis.
Yeah.
So, like, he turns into the Black Beast when he's in there. And, you know, I'm not surprised that he threw the extra punches, is because a lot of people have trouble turning it off. Sure. And sometimes you get in trouble. Like he said, sometimes people pop up, like, what did he say? Like Nosferatu? Like, oh. Yeah, right. I don't know if he said Nosferatu, but he said something. Like, sometimes people pop up.
Yeah,
like,
you gotta.
Right after you knock them out, and then you're like, man, I didn't follow up. So he probably trained himself to keep going, even if he thought the fight was over, because you never know, somebody will pop up and then, oh, you're on your back again, or oh, you're stuck on the fence or defending punches again. So,
well, plus,
yeah, it sucks, but I get it.
Yeah, and he had also mentioned at one point something like Curtis had talked some trash before, and so there was a little bit, like, he was saying something like Curtis didn't even really, like, show Derrick enough respect beforehand and stuff, and wasn't, like, taking him seriously and putting him on the radar and type thing. So Derrick, I think, did have a kind of a little extra point to prove there as well, you know? Okay. So, yeah. But so it was an amazing knockout. Hopefully Curtis is okay. The thing that sucks for Curtis is the only people he's lost to in the UFC are Ngannou and Derrick, like the two most powerful guys, right? So it's brutal. But Derrick he tied Vitor Belfort now for the most knockouts in UFC history with 12 knockouts in the UFC. And that was Derrick's 20th knockout overall. Yeah. So I did a little after the
Wow.
facts video if people want to watch that one to get all the facts and figures on that. But yeah, so the Black Beast now is our KO King.
Wow, that's insane. That's amazing. And you gotta think, like, is part of the strategy losing the first round? Or like
Maybe.
or just like waiting and seeing? Because
Mhm.
like you said, he might not have been hurt when Curtis was getting
Right.
off on him and like landing punches and stuff. Maybe he was just observing and calculating and seeing where he's going to dip and move his head and how he's going to react. And maybe the best way to do that and still have knockout power when you find the perfect spot is by like just not really doing that much,
Yeah.
you know, like letting him really get himself tired and then finding, okay, he's going to dip his head here because he thinks it's time to take me down, and then whoop, you know, right up the middle. Maybe that's part of his strategy. I'd love to do a seminar with Derrick Lewis because, like, first of all, I love the way he gets up, and I want him to explain that to me. Like, I think it's the best get up in UFC is Derrick Lewis's get up. Like, he's like Nosferatu.
Right.
Like, Ooh, I'm up now. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of being on my back. And then, like, he'll spend an entire round on his back, and then he just goes, "All right, I'm bored.
Let's go." Yeah.
Yeah, I need that. I need that for my own fight game. Like, I really want him to teach a seminar on that and waiting for the knockout punch,
Yeah.
man. I would pay good money for that.
Being patient. Well, we did think he looked really serious in the first round. His eye contact, like he just looked so focused. But he did actually say that he was kind of not really awake. So what we're seeing as strategy and, you know, thinking that he's overthinking, he was just kind of saying he just really wasn't all there yet. And he wasn't really kind of fully awake and stuff like that. So he doesn't, literally, the post-fight thing, it was, the first line he said, it felt like a dream, but I was like, it was all a dream. I used to be, you know, whatever.
Oh,
like,
my
It was
God.
all, and so, but that's what he said. He said it felt like a dream and like knocking him out and all this stuff. But yeah, I fully agree. Curtis is an incredible fighter. He was ranked number 2. Derrick was number 4. Derrick was, I guess, also they were saying the biggest main event underdog to pay off since Holly beat Ronda.
Wow.
Yeah, so good on Derrick. And like, if Derrick became champion, who wouldn't love him? Like, I keep saying this all weekend long. I was saying to the guys, like, could you imagine, like, morning TV? And today, ladies and gentlemen, you know, like, we've got the Black Beast. Like, he would charm the crap. Like, you can't not love that guy. Then when you see him, he's so funny. And then you see, like, oh, what do you mean? He went through Houston and, like, with his truck and saved people during the floods.
Yeah.
And he's done this and that. And, like, he's overcome a checkered past. Like, he has such a great story. And he's so likable. There's so much good stuff about the Black Beast. Man,
Yeah.
he's
He's
great.
like the black cuddly bear in real life. No, I think that would really boost the UFC just
Right.
marketing wise. Just having a guy like that as a champion, for sure. He's definitely lovable. He's definitely a character.
Right.
Poor Stipe.
I know.
He's
But it's like if we don't have DC, because DC was our big bear. He was our teddy bear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
DC's gone.
yeah.
But so, speaking of Stipe and Francis are fighting in March. Like I said, Tom Aspinall and Chris Daukaus were also on this card. They're kind of the future of the heavyweight division, and I just kind of want to get your take because we were all kind of getting excited about it. And you know how all of us, when the fights are on, Angie, you know how we tweet to try to get your tweet on the screen?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they put mine up because I was like, if you're not getting excited about the future of the UFC's heavyweight division, you should be. You know what I mean? And so,
Whoa.
but
Karyn.
I'm 100% serious because Tom Aspinall, Chris Daukaus, 2 guys now who are 3-0 in the UFC, all finishes. Like, they're smart. Like, Aspinall is from Darren Till's gym. He's already got a really good head on his shoulders. I've covered 2 of his fights over in Fight Island, so I've covered all his fights. Really good head on his shoulders. Same thing with Chris. Very mature already. His brother's a fighter too, and they just really give me a lot of hope for the promise of the division because they're fast. You know what I mean? They're a lot more athletic, and it's exciting. But then, you know, next weekend Jairzinho's fighting Cyril. We had Volkov just beat Alistair, so it's actually kind of a really exciting time for the heavyweights.
Yeah, and you know, that's a creeper one. Cyril Gain, he's a creeper.
Yeah.
He's been, I think, flying under the radar,
I think
and
so.
it wasn't until his last fight that I think people started paying attention, like, whoa, this guy is serious. But I remember I watched him fight Tanner Bozer, I think,
Yes.
and people were like big on Tanner Bozer at the time, and he just picked him apart. He was just really technical. His Muay Thai is like a middleweight's Muay Thai. Like he's so sharp and precise, and it's always really exciting when you see a heavyweight that can move. And I guess this is like the next generation of heavyweights, where you're seeing these guys who are mobile, they're agile, they're like football players, like they're like
Right. Running backs and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they can move. They're fast, they're explosive, and they don't gas out. And that's always been the big, I guess, the big thing that you have to deal with heavyweights is like you're either getting a knockout or you're getting two like big,
Right.
slow guys,
Slobber knocker.
like,
Right.
slapping chest for 2 rounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
until they
You're right.
pass
Yeah.
out. So yeah, I think this is the new breed where they're not gonna gas out. They're gonna keep going. They're gonna keep throwing like knockout shots, and you can still count on a knockout even if it goes to the 3rd round.
Yeah. It's exciting. I think it's really cool. And Andrei Arlovsky, Tom, the story on that was that Tom was inspired by Andre to even become a fighter. He went to go see him at UFC 70 in Manchester, and like that was like kind of his hero guy, and that inspired him to get into MMA. And so for him to even be able to fight him was a really big deal. And then that first round was still competitive, and it was a good round. I thought Tom won. It was competitive though, but I mean he came out like a bat out of hell in that second round and just sank in the choke on Andre so fast. So that was really impressive. But yeah, I think it's exciting. And Gane, he is good. Like you said, he's a sleeper. I think all his fights in the UFC have also been finishes. I think he's like 4-0 in the UFC and all finishes and stuff. And yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, big stuff.
Big stuff. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about the if we're doing bad jokes. I said this one on the air and I was very proud of myself. So Chris Daukaus, while we wrap up the heavyweight discussion, he's a police officer in Philadelphia. So I'm like, so guys, I'm like, Chris Daukaus is a police officer in Philly, but he doesn't keep the peace in the octagon. And I was like,
wow. That's
it was
pretty
so
good.
great, but I was very proud of myself for that joke.
That's pretty good.
It's not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wanted to ask you, I said at the beginning that I wasn't necessarily going to ask you about the Yana Ketlen fight per se, although I am curious what people's take on it was, because it's a interesting fight where I think a lot of people probably thought Ketlen Viera won. But then when you looked at the statistics, you were like, well, how can you win with that statistical showing? There's no way you could win with that. So it's going to be an interesting thing I think people will debate, and I'm very curious what people's take is on it. At the end, Yana did win a unanimous decision. If anything, I thought it was going to be a split decision for either girl because it was just kind of a weird fight. But the question is, it kind of seems like it maybe came down to Ketlen had a lot of control of Yana, but even though Yana was maybe mounted or even had her back taken, she was still fighting a lot, punching, being very active. And so it came down to what was winning here. Somebody who looked like they were controlling, but they were actually getting punched, So when you're in those positions, like what's more stressful, like sort of having your back taken going, oh crap, like how am I now going to make it look like I'm working?
Right. I don't know. I know that some people have had success punching off of their back, but I still believe, like, especially if you're not huge, if you're not a huge weight class, it doesn't do anything. Like, it's not going to hurt them. It's not going to rock them. You really have to be good at throwing those punches off your back, or just being consistent, like consistently hitting the elbows, maybe cutting them like Kenny Flooring used to do, like just aiming for the top of the head, getting the blood in their eyes, and then like doing some damage, doing something that shows, hey, I'm doing damage on this person, they're just holding me. But with their fight, I believe she was just throwing, just kind of like,
Yeah, sometimes it was this and that. Yeah, but at the same time, Ketlen wasn't advancing toward a submission attempt, necessarily. So,
and that's why I really feel like there should be more draws,
Yeah.
because if you have a fight like that where nothing really happens, like you're literally just two people holding on to each other, one person holding on to her, not going to for submissions, not advancing,
Yeah.
the other person not damaging with their strikes. Like I know
So it's like a
Yana,
stalemate.
yeah, it's a stalemate, and like I don't know. I definitely feel like it's bad for the sport to reward one person just because you're like, oh, well, I guess that person won. I feel like sometimes it's a coin flip, and that's why you thought it was going to be a split, because a lot of times judges will be like, oh, well, whatever. I think that person won. They just kind of pick whatever based off of their like biases or whatever they understand about the rules. But like I feel like it's happened before where the person was actually doing damage on the bottom. Like I was telling you, I remember once in Tough, a guy was stuck on his back. He couldn't get up, but he was just chopping away with elbows the entire time in guard, just chopping, chopping, chopping. Even when the guy would advance, he's just chopping, chopping, chopping. And the guy wouldn't do anything back. Like, it's like, okay, at some point you should posture up and hit him back.
Right.
Like being on top is the best time to land more strikes than your opponent, because they can't really punch back. Like they have to try to get up or defend, or even if they are punching back, they don't have gravity on their side.
Right.
So it's really odd to me when a person takes that strategy to just hold on for dear life. Like to me, it tells me that the person holding on doesn't want to fight.
Yeah.
And that's where you get judges scoring for the other person who couldn't get away from them, just because it's like, okay, one person wants to fight and one person doesn't, so we'll reward the person trying to fight and trying to strike.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really, I still feel like they shouldn't be rewarded for it. Like I feel like if you can't get out of that person's grasp, even though all they're doing is trying to hold you, like that's a stalemate.
Well, in the end though, so here's the thing. And why I'm confused is I thought Ketlen very clearly won round one. But somebody gave, it was unanimous. So it was strange. Round one
You're
was,
very good. You're like,
yeah, we're like, I really, truly. So round one was very clearly Ketlen's round, because we were talking in between. Yana's boyfriend is Thiago Santos, who's great, but we were saying like some of the stuff that in the corner, we were like, he could have been more. He could have given her more actual specific direction, right? It was kind of some of the direction, and some of the we were like, well, I don't know if that was really the best thing to say, because like she actually didn't do as well. I don't know, but we were like, well, but he obviously knows Yana really well and knows how to encourage her. So like, who are we to say what he needs to tell her? Because since they're a couple, like maybe she doesn't want to be overly, I don't know, whatever. But so so I very clearly thought she lost the first round. But anyway, my point is at the end, she did cut Ketlen up. Ketlen's got real bloody at the end, and Yana was able to kind of finally, because it seemed like she could have turned around a lot sooner than she did. Whatever. Here I am saying that from the seat at the desk. Not in the third round of a fight with a woman who's just been beasting all over me for friggin' 18 minutes. Or whatever, 14 minutes. But so when she did turn it around though, yeah, Yana was really landing on her, and she's a tough girl. And at the end of the fight, to your point about what the judges perceive and what they see, Yana got up looking her gorgeous self, like flexing, like flawless, you know what I mean? And, and Ketlen was all bloodied and, at that point had been on the bottom, bless you. And that's so, the visuals for Yana at the end were way in her favor, And so I'm not saying she didn't win. I'm just saying I was surprised it was unanimous.
Yeah, I agree. It just happens like that sometimes. Yeah. Like there'll be times where everyone says somebody gets robbed and it's still unanimous for the other person. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe the judges were all in agreement where they really didn't see anything from either one of those girls until that last minute. And a lot of times, like when I try to score fights in my head, I'll go, okay, who won the first half of the round? Who won the second half of the round? And then if it's like too much, I'm like, okay, who won the first minute? Who won the second minute? Who won the third minute? And a lot of times it's just like, it was dead even. It was dead even. Yeah. It was dead even. And it comes down to that last minute for someone to make a statement. So it's actually pretty hard to judge fights like that, because you're not sure where to put the weight of something. You're not sure you're not sure what's being more effective because you're not actually in there feeling it. But I don't know. I'm not mad at for personal reasons, like, Ketlen missing weight.
Yes,
And
that too.
just having a vendetta against grapplers that hold.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think, if going forward, she definitely needs to shore that up and work on getting away from people who are just holding for dear life. Because a lot of times you don't get that feel in the gym. A lot of times you're used to people giving you space because they want to punch, and you're able to get out. So maybe getting some people who just will hold desperately, and it's a whole different feel when you're on the ground and on your back. When someone's holding for dear life and they're not giving you any space, they're not trying to attack you, it definitely makes you have to scramble more, have to like get on your sides more, and really just keep wiggling until you find an opening, because they're not going to let go for any reason, especially if they're not trying to punch you. So it's a different feel, and it takes experience to do that, which is probably why you assumed she'd get out of there faster, but instead she was just,
because that's what I'm doing. I'm like just what leg do your heat just I'm like, just go, like, just go. I know you're strong enough. Yana's so strong, obviously. And maybe to your point too, maybe it was that Ketlen maybe thought she won earlier and was protecting a win in her brain. I don't know. I don't know. But she had so much more success controlling Yana on the ground, so I understand why she took her back there, even though Ketlen has good hands and like heavy hands, But anyway, interesting fight. And Yana now has the second most wins in the bantamweight division behind Irene Aldana.
Wow.
Yeah, so Aldana has 5 and Yana has 4. So
nice. Good for her.
Yeah. And another little record on the knockout thing was last night was tied for the third most knockouts on a prelim card. So there were 5 knockouts on the prelims at UFC 19. So twice there were 6 knockouts, right? So at UFC 185, I think it was, where Pettis and RDA fought. And also the time that Gil Melendez was fighting Benson Henderson. On those prelims, there were 6 knockouts. But other than that, this was the most knockouts, And so that was cool. Now, I have a question for you. And we can wrap this up soon, because I know now that you're in fight camp, you got like other stuff to do. Oh, my God.
I have a really hard fight camp ahead of me. Yes. 6 days. Let's wrap it up.
But poor Chaz Skelly, if you heard the Jamal Emmers situation, Jamal Emmers didn't get to fight because he was having back spasms backstage. So he was supposed to walk first. And so right, because blue corner goes first, right? And then so he was supposed to go first, but anyway, Chaz ended up walking out, and then we're like waiting, and Chaz is like in the octagon, and we're all like watching, we're like, okay. And so he didn't come out, and then we find out that he had back spasms, and it sucked. So the fight just got canceled while Chaz was literally in the octagon. And then I guess like allegedly or whatever, I saw some stuff. Luis Pena's like trying to be like, I'll fight him, because his fight with Jakar Close got called off because a corner man from Close's team tested positive. So they just, for the COVID protocol, canceled that fight. But Violent Bob Ross is all, I'll fight him or whatever. But yeah, that just sucked because Skelly's there. Like we were saying, what do you do with all that energy? The guys were like, oh no, he's going to have to go beat the crap out of his corner man or like one of his teammates or something, because he did a whole camp. He's all energized. He's fired up. He's in the gosh darn octagon and doesn't get to fight.
I know. I was thinking, didn't that happen when I was there with you once? But I think
Trevin Giles. It was Trevin Giles was going to fight Kevin Holland, and he passed out. But I think that was 15 minutes before the fight
or something. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's insane. It's insane. And the whole time I was wondering, like watching him pace back and forth, I'm wondering like, does he know yet? Like, does he know yet? Like, even when they had him, when they had the announcer reading off what had happened. What had happened? I was wondering if he knew what had happened yet, or if he was still confused. Like, do you know?
I didn't really get to hear his whole speech. Because we were in the studio and we're talking about all this other stuff, and I might have been getting ready to do something. So I heard some of it. So I don't know how much he really knew and I think he figured it out kind of in the moment. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But one thing I do know is they asked him when he would want to reschedule it. And this I did think was interesting because for you guys, it is a whole timing thing about when your body peaks. And I do kind of remember hearing him say something like, well, I can't just do it next week. You know what I mean? It's like, because now my body I need to sort of either power back down or give my body recovery time from the cut and then come back. So I am curious, like, in that situation, like, if something gets canceled on you right then and there, what do you think the best time to fight again is?
Well, that's just experience and him understanding his body. Like some people could jump right back in. We saw Kevin Holland do it right back in the next week after poor Giles. And then some people need time to recover, especially if they have a hard weight cut, if they're an older fighter or more of a veteran who's been in there a lot of times, so they've had a lot of weight cuts. Mm-hmm. And some people are very particular about when they push and when they rest. So if you're a type of person who has like a really strict schedule, like this is my period of time to put on muscle, this is my period of time to work my cardio, now this is when I taper down. If you're very strict with that and that's like your go-to every time you fight and that's how you feel your best, if you change that, then that could just throw your whole thing out the window. Even if it's just mental, that's going to throw your whole game out the window. But like your body needs time to recover. And he was so emotional when that happened that it was probably one of those nightmare fight camps where it just felt like Groundhog Day and every day was worse than the next, and you're just like, when is this fucking fight gonna happen? Like there's some fight camps that are just a drag, and then some fight camps you feel amazing. So I feel like that was one of those fight camps where it just like he got hit with lots of emotions, lots of hardships, and he's like, fuck that. Like, I'm not coming back here next week. Like, give me my win bonus. I want to take a break.
That's what I'm saying. You know?
So I totally get that. I totally understand that. I think it takes a certain type of athlete to show up the next week. But but I mean, if it was a hard weight cut, it is really hard to gas yourself up to do that again the next week. Like I think Holland walks pretty close to his weight. So it's not a huge deal.
I don't think he has hard cuts.
Yeah, and same for me. Like I'm not huge. That's why I can take short notice fights. But some people, they cut a lot of weight. It takes a toll on their body and they need time to recover. And if they don't, that's when they start injuring themselves, like either in the preparation or in the fight. So good for him for knowing his body and being educated in that note.
Nice. Okay, so last question, and this is very important. Your braids look great. So how are we doing this on fight night then? What are we doing with this?
I literally found out about the fight the day after I put them in. I'm so mad. So usually I take my hair out because like this is extra weight. This is extra weight that I have to cut. And I do not like cutting weight. Like no bueno. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet, but I'm going to wait until weight cut day. If it starts getting hairy, once we get past like the 20 mark, then I'm getting the scissors and chopping them off, and I'll deal with it later.
Yeah, that's a drag. Because I was like, seriously, because like last week you just had your fro and everything. I'm like, oh, she's good to go. And then I'm like, oh, I mean, and it looks so good, but I know it's like time consuming, expensive, like all this stuff. And then I'm like, oh man, you know.
Yeah, it's all good though. I do my own hair, so it's not too like expensive for me. It's just, it is time consuming. And, you know, I was ready to look cute for a while.
Yeah, right.
So we'll see if they can make it through the weight cut. If not, getting out the scissors.
Yeah, I always wondered about like that. You know, you always feel like certain people could do that. Like I think people have done that before, like cut their hair, to make weight, for sure.
Oh yeah. My girl Lauren, she's always like, we have this funny joke where we're getting her ready to like fly out, and we're like, hey Lauren, did you pack the scissors? Because every time she gets like right to like 1 pound above the weigh-in limit, and she's like, "Get the scissors!"
Oh no,
I'm over it. Goes full Britney Spears again with the Britney Spears reference.
It's the Britney Spears. That's funny. All right. Well, obviously, we wish you the best, Alexa. When do you go to Vegas? On Tuesday, or do you go tomorrow?
I think so. I think Tuesday. I don't know. I haven't gotten my travel arrangements together yet. But yeah, Tuesday. Tuesday we fly out, I guess, or drive out. We'll
Yeah.
see. And yeah, then I'll be out there with you.
No, I'm not
Are you
working,
gonna be there?
unfortunately. I'm bummed.
Ah!
I know,
Late.
I'm bummed. I'm bummed. But Rashad's working your fight, so he's psyched.
Hey, Rashad, I'm gonna show him some wrestling this time. Make him
Yeah, yeah,
mad.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I know I'm bummed I'm not working. Oh, the one thing I will say, and even you were laughing about it. Somebody punked you by putting your picture right above Alex Caceres.
I know. I'm like, I know production did that on purpose. They knew. They knew because Alex, he cut his hair. He cut his hair. They knew. They pulled out the old
I
photo.
know.
They were like, we have this like shape up version of Caceres, but let's put the afro one next to the afro. And I bet the corners even switched. I bet they even switched the corners
They
so
probably
that we
did.
were one over the next. I'm like,
Exactly.
I can't wait to find out who did that to me.
It's funny. Virtually identical.
Virtually identical. No, it was pretty good. I had to laugh at that. That was fun.
That was really funny. All right. Well, listen, folks, if you are watching this, then that means you are on my YouTube channel. And if you are here, hopefully you can hit subscribe. You also could be watching this on Angela's IGTV. And that means they're probably already following you. And if they're not, they should be. We are also available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. So just look for What Had Happened Was with us and hit subscribe, and you won't miss any episodes. I'm KB Heat on Instagram, Karyn Bryant everywhere else. Angela, where can they find you?
I'm Angie Overkill on Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, that's where you can find me. What?
Awesome.
I was trying to think of like a gang sign. Like,
Oh, no.
what?
Well, maybe a lowercase or H. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Happened. What?
Well,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good. I should say people should tune in. Now I'm doing the promo to watch Angela on the main card at UFC Vegas 20. Action starts, prelims start at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific, main card at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. All of the action going down on ESPN Plus. So yeah. I believe those are the start times, but yeah, everything's ESPN Plus next week, and we got to watch you. So
Yeah.
have fun.
I didn't know that info, so
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah.
I can tell my mom.
Yeah. All right. So go clean your room and get a good night's sleep.
Okay, I will. Thanks.
See you later.